Let's talk about Jerusalem. We're going to look at its story, but from a really different angle. We're not just diving into the history books, we're looking at its geography. Because it turns out, the land the city is built on, well, that's what really wrote its epic story.
You know, when you look at a map, Jerusalem's location is kind of strange, right? It's not on a big river, it's not on a major trade route, it's just kind of perched up in the mountains. So you have to ask the question, why here? Why did this one spot become such a focus for literally billions of people? Well, the secret isn't buried in some dusty archive. It's literally carved into the hills and valleys. To really understand Jerusalem, its past, its conflicts, its whole spiritual meaning, you have to start with the ground beneath its feet.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics, the raw topography that made everything else even possible.
Right from the get-go, Jerusalem had this incredible defense system built right into the land. The city sits on this plateau, and it's flanked by these really deep, steep valleys. You've got the Kidron on the east and the Hinnom wrapping around the south and west. They basically formed a natural moat. Any army trying to attack would have to go way down into a valley and then fight their way back uphill. For a defender, that's a dream setup.
Okay, but a fortress, no matter how good, is totally useless without water. And this is where things get interesting. The city had one crucial vulnerability, which was also its greatest asset, the Gihon Spring. Its name literally means gusher, and for good reason. It was the only reliable natural water source around. This one little spring tucked away on the slope was the city's lifeline. It's the whole reason people settled here in the first place.
And this physical reality, what people saw every single day, it bled right into their spiritual life. So when you read a famous line from the Psalms like this one, they weren't just being poetic, they were describing their daily reality, that feeling of security from looking out from the city and seeing these high hills all around them. So now let's see how this landscape basically dictated the city's entire structure, starting with its most famous king.
So when King David shows up around the 10th century BCE, you'd think he'd pick the highest point, right? But he doesn't. He chooses this smaller ridge, what we call the City of David. Now, why would he do that? Two big reasons. It was easy to defend, and, crucially, it was right next to the Gihon Spring. That became the political hub. But just north of it, there was a higher, more impressive hill, Mount Moriah. And that's where his son, Solomon, would build the first temple, making it the spiritual heart. So right away, the geography creates this fascinating dual identity for the city. To really get this, just imagine you're standing down in the City of David, the political center. You are literally looking up at hills all around you. That act of looking up, it was a constant physical reminder of your own vulnerability, and maybe the need for some help from a higher power. It's a feeling that you see echoed all through the Psalms.
But what happens when your greatest strength, your geography, suddenly becomes your biggest weakness? Well, a massive crisis in the 8th century BCE forced one of the most incredible engineering feats of the ancient world, and it was all because of the lay of the land.
Okay, so here's the setup. The northern kingdom of Israel collapses, and suddenly a flood of refugees pours into Jerusalem. The city just explodes, spilling way beyond its old walls and onto this higher western hill. And just when things couldn't get more chaotic, the mighty Assyrian army shows up to besiege the city. So this crazy growth created a huge problem. The city's only water source, the Gihon Spring, was now outside the new walls, totally exposed to the enemy. King Hezekiah's solution was, well, it was brilliant and a little bit insane. Part 1, build a massive new wall. Part 2, and this is the genius part, dig a tunnel straight through solid rock to bring the Gihon's water from outside the city to a new pool safely inside.
And what a tunnel. We're talking about two teams of workers, basically with pickaxes and hammers, digging from opposite ends of this hill. They carved through 533 meters, that's over a third of a mile, of solid limestone. And somehow, guided by just the sound of each other's tools, they met right in the middle. It's just incredible. And you know how we're so sure about this? Because they basically left a note. Archaeologists found this thing called the Siloam inscription right inside the tunnel. It describes those final, breathtaking moments when the two teams heard each other and finally broke through. It's this amazing piece of proof that backs up the whole story. All right, let's jump forward about 700 years. If King Hezekiah had to adapt to the landscape out of necessity, King Herod the Great, well, he decided to just remake it entirely out of ambition. Herod's ambition was huge. He wanted a temple complex that would blow away anything in the Roman Empire. The problem was, the hill, Mount Moriah, just wasn't big enough. So what did he do? His engineers built a gigantic retaining wall all the way around the mountain and just filled it in. They created this huge, flat platform, about 37 acres. He didn't just build on the mountain, he basically built a brand new mountaintop.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, the biggest single stone they used in that retaining wall weighs around 600 tons. That's like 300 cars all in one block of stone. How they even moved these things, let alone placed them so perfectly with ancient tech, it's still an engineering mystery.
But even with this total makeover, the basic lay of the land still shaped everything. Think about that story in the New Testament from the Gospel of John. Jesus is up near the massive, elevated Temple Mount, and he tells the blind man to go wash in the pool of Siloam. Yep, the same pool fed by Hezekiah's tunnel. To get there, the man had to walk downhill, all the way to the southern end of the city, following the natural slope. The entire story, from the high, holy place down to the life-giving water, it's all mapped out by the city's terrain. So when you start to peel back all the layers of Jerusalem's history, what you find, time and time again, is that the land isn't just the stage for the story. It's one of the main characters.
I mean, just think about it. The valleys? They were the original walls. The spring? It was the source of life. A low hill became the political capital, while a high hill became the spiritual center. The topography itself forced these amazing engineering projects. It dictated how the city grew, and it literally guided the paths people walked for thousands of years.
You know, the walls, the buildings, the borders, they've all changed a million times. But the Kidron Valley, Mount Moriah, the Gihon Spring, they're still there. They're the permanent foundation under this constantly changing city. And that leaves you with a really fascinating question. If this ancient landscape has had such a profound impact on the city's past, what stories are its hills and valleys going to tell about its future?